Hey there, and welcome to Ruthfull's Art Corner. I'm your host, Ruthfull, also known as Ruthfull LA. Check out my live stream on Twitch, follow me on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for all kinds of art-related content. Let's get started on our art news section. All of my art news, well, I shouldn't say all of it, but a good portion of my art news information comes from the website artnews.com, so you could check them out if you are interested in that kind of thing. But we are going to start in on a couple of stories that I felt like it might be fun to talk about today. Here we go. So, first up, our first story is Lacma plus Interscope. You might be familiar with Interscope Records, home of Dr. Dre, No Doubt, and 9 Inch Nails, among many other artists. They are teaming up with Lacma to produce an exhibit. So a new exhibition is opening soon at Lacma's offsite space, the Raskin, that will feature a newly commissioned corporate collection of art to celebrate Interscope's Records' 30th anniversary. Yes, interesting user, 9 Inch Nails, I know. See, now you're excited about going to see it. So, it's a new exhibition. It's opening soon at Lacma, which is the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and it's happening in their offsite space. In case you don't know, Lacma is under renovation, so all of its current exhibits are happening at an offsite location, which is the Raskin. And it's going to feature newly commissioned a corporate collection of art to celebrate Interscope Records' 30th anniversary. Happy birthday, Interscope Records, I guess. Artists inspired by music, Interscope Reimagined. That's the name, that's the title of this particular show. The run dates, it's January 30th to February 13th, so it's actually a very short show. And it's a collaboration between Lacma and Interscope, and it's also a collaboration with Snapchat that's going to allow viewers to enjoy an AR experience, that's altered reality or alternate reality, of listening, or is it augmented reality? It's augmented, of listening to the music that inspires each piece while viewing them. So, works in the exhibit will include a Kehinde Wiley portrait of Dr. Dre. See there, right there, whoop, right there. It's pretty cool. I just shared it on my Instagram as well. Make sure you're following me on Instagram to get all of the updates about the channel and about when I'm streaming and what I'm streaming about. But so yeah, other works are going to draw on albums by Lady Gaga, No Doubt, Kendrick Lamar, Tupac, Mary J. Blige, 9 Inch Nails, Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish, and more. That's right, and more. There's like 50 pieces in this exhibit, so there will be a lot of different pieces. Artists who are going to be participating include Ed Ruscha, Cecily Brown, Takashi Murakami, who we discussed on a recent episode, Lauren Halsey, Anna Park, Lisa Yuskavage, Rashid Johnson, Derek Adams, Jennifer Guidi, Matthew Wong, and Hilary Pessis. The exhibit will also include 2 NFTs, and they are by the artist Burnt Toast, and they will reference the music of Timbaland and NERD. By the way, NERD was from, or is from, the same general area of the country as me. That is the Tidewater region over in Virginia, Virginia Beach for me. I believe Portsmouth and Virginia Beach, respectively, there for Timbaland and NERD. There you go. That is the list of the artists that will be included in the show. So there's a couple of big names in there. So you know, there'll be some really interesting pieces, I think. I'm very excited to see what work those artists are going to create. Now, some folks, including art critic Christopher Knight, are slamming the exhibition as crass commercialism. He doesn't have an issue with artists getting paid to do commercial commissions. That's not the problem. No. The problem is the potential perception problems for the curatorial independence of the Lacma staff. And if it sounds like a little bit of, big words signifying not much, it's because it kind of is. Basically, what he's saying there is that because most shows at a museum, at an institution like Lacma, are organized by a curatorial staff or a guest curator, that by having this show in which all of the works were commissioned and selected by executives from a corporate entity and not from Lacma, that it somehow pollutes or minimizes the effect of the curatorial independence that you would normally see at Lacma. And I don't know. I don't really think that's as much of an issue. I think most art goers can kind of get when something is a bit of a sponsored exhibit versus when it's the institution's exhibit. I mean, the Interscope label, I assume, is going to be all over the place. So it's not like it's going to come across as a pure Lacma show that just happens to be all these Interscope things. So anyway, his biggest gripe, this critic, is that it's all just not that interesting. And it's not that interesting to him. And it probably isn't to him, but if it drives traffic to the museum that hasn't ever been there before, they might explore other areas and exhibits. And that's part of what museum programming is all about getting new feet through the door, new eyeballs on the art, because they have multiple exhibits going on in this space. This is just one of the exhibits that they have going on. So by having one that's going to attract a non-traditional art audience, people who want to see that Dr. Dre piece, people who want to see the Billie Eilish inspired piece, those folks are then going to check out other exhibits. And then they might even get on the mailing list for the museum and then come and see the next exhibit. So yeah, this critic from the LA Times, he's got a beef with the whole thing. I personally don't. I think it's all right. I think they're being pretty transparent about how it all got put together, and that's the important thing. So with that in mind, the plan as it stands right now is for my partner and I to go check it out at some point during that window in which it is open. It's JC says, it also makes people realize art can be something else than old, boring paintings. Yes, exactly. Art doesn't have to be stuffy, portraits of people who have been dead for centuries, or abstract pieces that the majority of people don't understand unless they've been given a bit of an intro into why this piece is significant or why this artist is significant, or just the school, the movement. But in this case, they're going to see art that was inspired by music that they know. And then they're going to be like, wow, this is cool. Art can be cool. Art is something I can relate to. Boom. That's what we want. That is exactly what this particular channel is trying to do in the first place. And so, I think we're good to go. Now, if you are an LA resident and you are watching this, I'm pretty sure you get free admission to that museum. I sadly am no longer an LA resident. I moved to San Bernardino County at the start of the pandemic, which is just outside of LA County, so it's not too far away for me to go. However, I won't be getting in for free, but that's okay. I'm willing to give them my money for this show. I mean, I won't just be going to see this show, and that actually leads me into my next bit of art news. There's a Black American Portraits exhibit also going on at Lacma at the same time. So boom, a little 2-for-1. Now, this is currently on view on Lacma, and the exhibit is titled Black American Portraits, and it runs through April 2022. So you have some time to go check it out. The Interscope one is only 2 weeks. It ends February 13th, but this Black American Portraits exhibit will be there until April 2022. So, that exhibit was organized to complement the presentation of the Obama portraits, which were done by Kehinde Wiley and Amy Sherald, and those are on tour from the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery. Every sitting U.S. president gets a official portrait done. It then goes to the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery, but apparently it is tradition for it to tour around a little bit first before getting its final resting place in the Smithsonian in DC. So those portraits are currently available to see at Lacma as well. So it's not even a twofer, it's a threefer. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Now, some of the artists in the Black American Portraits exhibit do include Jean-Michel Basquiat, who we talked about in an earlier chat. Kerry James Marshall, also we referred to in an earlier chat, one of my personal faves. Neel, Kehinde Wiley and Amy Sherald, as we already mentioned. David Driscoll, Charles White, Shanique Smith, Jacob Lawrence, and Lorna Simpson. And many more. Here we see a portrait of Kerry James Marshall. The title is A Portrait of the Artist as a Shadow of His Former Self. One of the things I love most about Kerry James Marshall is that he paints the Black American experience, and he doesn't shy away from tone. He lets his characters, his protagonists, have very, very dark skin tones. And that's something that you did not see in paintings of African American or Black American subjects, because the artist would lighten them up to make it a little bit easier for them to paint. But he does not hold back. And I think that is very cool. And there's my catchphrase. That's very cool. But yeah, I love his work. I got to see a bunch of his work at a show at MOCA back in 2016. And in fact, let's go ahead and test out the chatbot once again and see. Oh, there we go. Thank you, chatbot. There are some links there in the chat that you can check out. I couldn't find a website for him. I guess he doesn't have one. He doesn't need one. However, I did link to the MOCA exhibit that I went to see, which still has quite a awesome, it was a retrospective, so it had a very large collection of images, and then it links to some of his other work. And then also in the chatbot post, I put the link to his Instagram, which appears to be his Instagram. I say that because he's followed by MOCA and by a number of other kind of institutional accounts. However, he doesn't have the check mark, so I don't know. Maybe he's just not interested in getting the check mark. He's like, I don't need this. But definitely, please check it out. You thought he recognized his style. You were right. You were right. And so when I go, I will try to take some photos of the exhibit while I'm there. I doubt I can do any kind of live stream video situation, but I can definitely take some photos, and I will talk about both the Interscope exhibit and this Black American Portraits exhibit with the Obama portraits as well on a future art chat segment. So there's some future content for you coming at you. It's probably going to be a little while. I don't really think we're going to get to go until the first or second week of February. So stay tuned for that. Next up, I just wanted to throw it out there from our last Art History for You episode. The Judith and Holofernes by Kehinde Wiley is there, as you can see. Love it. Love his background textures. It's lovely, and I think it creates a really interesting contrast between what's happening in the foreground and then these textures in the background that are both busy, kind of comforting, kind of discomforting. You know, it's good. I like it. I like the tension. So our next bit of art news is that Desert X has announced their next dates. Now, if you don't know, Desert X is a biannual event, which means it happens every other year. So even though we just went to see it last year in 2021, it is returning in 2023. The dates specifically March 4th to May 7th of 2023, and it's out there in the Coachella Valley, which is not too far from where I am at, outside of LA. I know our news is mostly LA centric, so if you're a viewer who is not Los Angeles oriented, I apologize, but you know, I will eventually cover things that are not LA centric. I promise. I promise. Here you see from last year, from 2021, one of my favorite pieces. This is Never Forget by Nicholas Galadin. And he is a Tlingit and Unagik artist, who are two indigenous tribes to North America. I believe both generally found in the Canadian region, like the Prince Edward Isles region. So that's something that's not LA, but no, I'm sorry, I'm being silly. So that, as you can probably guess, was a piece that was a riff on the Hollywood sign, and it is a reminder that everything in Southern California, everything in California, to put not too fine a point on it, is Indian land that belonged to someone before the colonists got here, whether they were Spanish, English, wherever, and they are still here. The indigenous folks are still living here. I was just reading a interesting novel a couple weeks ago called There by Tommy Orange that talks about the indigenous experience up in Oakland, California. But I found this piece to be very moving. These letters just as big as the real Hollywood sign. And yeah, it was really interesting. I hope we get to see more from that artist. I want to show you just a couple of photos that I took when we went out there last year. It was last year, not 2 years ago. So there's my photo of the Never Forget. As you can see, a slightly different angle, but I got the sign in there too, which I thought was helpful, especially, you know, a year or two later when you're trying to remember. And then here's the other one I wanted to share with you. This is The Wishing Well by Serge Clottey, and he is an artist from Ghana, and all of this was made out of yellow water jugs that have been recycled and then woven into this matte-like quality, matte-like texture, and it's really neat. You know, they've got an issue with water, they've got an issue with plastic pollution, and while the water crisis is being spoken about with this art, the materials helped to address the plastic crisis, the pollution crisis, and the unemployment crisis. He was able to employ a number of local folks and teach them this skill of recycling this plastic into an art material. And so we really loved this piece. It was really moving, very cool. And I'm actually going to share a link now with you guys of a video that's on KCET, which is a local public access station here in Southern California. And they did a really, really interesting deep dive on every piece of art that was in the 2021 Desert X exhibition. And it's like an hour long, so obviously I wasn't going to show it here, but let me pull up that link. I'm going to put it here. And when this video goes on YouTube, I will make sure to put that link down in the description. Let's see here, I've got it. Okay, so that's the link to the kcet.org video, and their show is called Artbound. They do episodes about local artists pretty frequently. And I dig it, and so I wanted to share that with you. I believe that brings us to the end. Yes, that does bring us to the end of my little slideshow. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, no worries. Feel free to watch that sometime that you want to see what other art I'm talking about. All of the pieces, for the most part, are outdoors or situated in an outdoor space, even if they themselves are a container that you can enter. I know that probably sounds a little strange, but they're really interesting, and they're out in the elements for like 2 months. So that is something that the artists have to contend with. It actually, one of the reasons why my partner and I are drawn to it is because it reminds us a lot of Burning Man and of some of the art installations that go there, even though Burning Man is only a week and this particular exhibition lasts for over 2 months. There's that same sort of having to create your installation in very harsh conditions that then need to survive in harsh conditions and leave no trace at the end. Side note about Desert X 2021, it doesn't get mentioned in that KCET video, but I remember that the artist Judy Chicago, who does a lot of interesting land art, she was going to have a work, an installation at Desert X 2021, and she ultimately was not able to have it. They had to just cancel it, essentially, and it's because, I believe it's because even though her art is not toxic to the environment and leaves no trace after a period, when it's actually happening, it could potentially scare or intimidate or otherwise affect local wildlife. And so because she could not find a way to do it in a way that wouldn't affect the local wildlife, the local landowners said, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that here. And so she wasn't able to do it, which was a bummer because I am a fan of hers and I really wanted to see her artwork. But it's also totally understandable from the point of view of both the landowners and the festival curators, because their whole thing is leave no trace. And so, you know, if it's going to affect the wildlife, that is in a way its own trace. So I'm going to take a quick sip of my tea. And then we're going to see about making this happen. Thanks for watching this video. I put all of the links down in the description so that you can check them out in your own time. Remember, if you want to chat with me while I deliver this content live, make sure to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/RuthfullLA. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel to help me grow the Artsy Farts community.